Not only is Shohei Ohtani a member of the Los Angeles Dodgers, he has also agreed to an unprecedented contract that will give the Giants' main rival more financial flexibility than anyone thought possible. Welcome into another edition of the Kerry Crowley Show emergency podcast following the breaking news from Fabian Ardaya of The Athletic that Ohtani has agreed to defer $680 million of the $700 million he agreed to sign with the Los Angeles Dodgers for to after the 10 years that he is set to play for the Dodgers for. So what does this deal mean? Is this deal even legal? And how much pressure does this put on the San Francisco Giants over the next decade? I'm going to try and answer all of those questions here in the next 10, 15 minutes or so. But what I want to start out with is the question, is this deal legal? Yes. Within the CBA, the collective bargaining agreement between Major League Baseball and the Major League Baseball Players Association, deferred money is not an unusual concept. We've seen it done in several deals before. We will see it done into the future, maybe more often now that Ohtani has agreed to a structure of this type. But what makes this deal so unique is oftentimes players are making a ton of money at the beginning of their contracts, and then they get deferred money for after their contract is up. Bobby Bonilla, New York Mets, the most famous example. I think he's getting paid out through 2035. There's Bobby Bonilla every year, or Bobby Bonilla Day every year, where he's still getting paid by the New York Mets. Well, Shohei Ohtani is going to be paid just massive sums of money for 2034 to I think 2045, whenever the end of this deferred structure is set up for. But what it means in the present is that he will be making $2 million annually. He will essentially be like a little more compensated than the worst or youngest players on a major league team. So it's just an unfathomable deal that we've never seen done before, and we likely will never see done again. I think that there's a lot of people saying, and maybe hastily so, after this Ohtani agreement was announced today, or Fabian Ardaya broke the news today, that this could set a new structure, this could set a new precedent in Major League Baseball. And I really don't think it will. I don't think there are a number of players who are making so much in their off-field endorsements that they're willing to sacrifice present-day money for what they will get from their teams. And so, if you're thinking the Giants just ought to agree to something like this with Yoshinobu Yamamoto, they ought to pitch Blake Snell on this idea, Cody Bellinger, any number of free agents, I simply don't believe that there are, a number of players out there that would agree to a deal like this. And of course, $700 million is nothing to scoff at, but a number of different people around baseball, a number of different economists on social media have said the present day value of this deal is something more like 10 years for 450, 460, 470 in terms of $470 million. And so what all of that means is that based on the luxury tax calculations, based on, all of the mechanics that go into figuring out the average annual value of a deal within the context of Major League Baseball's luxury tax, it's essentially going to be a $45 or $46 million annual average value hit on the Dodgers payroll with this Ohtani contract. So still a massive sum of money. It's not as if, they're only paying $2 million a year to Ohtani, and that's the only thing that shows up on their luxury tax bill. But $46 million is a lot easier to stomach than $70 million, which is what most people, including myself, had assumed that Ohtani would be paid when this contract was initially announced on Saturday, 10 years, $700 million. And so is it legal? Yes. What does it mean? It means bad news for the San Francisco Giants and every other team, probably in Major League Baseball, but at least every other team in the National League West and the National League at large, because it gives the Dodgers the financial flexibility to continue adding. So not only do they have Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, who are all making big money, but now they can go out and they can add starting pitchers. They can go out and maybe add one more star to a team that really does need more in its rotation. Look, I don't think you're going to find a better, more feared trio at the top of the order than Betts, Freeman, and Ohtani. But the Dodgers pitching left a little to be desired last year. I think that's one of the reasons they were bounced in the National League Championship Series by the Arizona Diamondbacks. So here we go. The Dodgers now have opportunities to add in free agency. They'll have opportunities to add via trades, and it gives them an opportunity to put an even better team on the field in 2024 and beyond than we thought possible, because they're not paying a $70 million average annual value hit on Shohei Ohtani. It's more like 45, 46, which again, huge sum. No player in Major League Baseball has ever cost that much against the luxury tax threshold. Max Scherzer held the previous record at $43.3 million, but the Dodgers do have room to work with here because they do have a number of young players who don't cost them much money. And so what all of this means for the San Francisco Giants, it doesn't, to me, change a whole lot, because we've talked a lot on the Kerry Crowley Show in the past about how much pressure the Giants should be under and how much pressure the Giants, Farhan Zaidi, Greg Johnson, every person at the upper levels of this organization should feel, just based on what has happened internally, really, over the course of the last decade. Since the Giants won their last playoff series, which was the 2014 World Series in Kansas City. We all remember Game 7, Madison Bumgarner, the bullpen gate swinging over. Well, that memory that was oh so fond and oh so close, well, it's becoming a little more distant now. And with each passing year, it becomes more remarkable that Bumgarner did what he did. No one's ever going to forget that accomplishment. But with each passing year where the Giants either make the playoffs or don't, and don't advance in the playoffs, again, they haven't advanced past the NLDS since 2014, it puts even more pressure on the organization. And so the Giants should be feeling the heat. I do believe they are feeling the heat. Buster Olney of ESPN reporting earlier in the day on Tuesday that the Giants were meeting with Yoshinobu Yamamoto reporting earlier in the day on Monday that the Giants were meeting with Japanese ace Yoshinobu Yamamoto over the weekend at Oracle Park. That's a good sign, because so far things have felt relatively quiet on the Yamamoto front for the San Francisco Giants. I think that there's been a lot of buzz about both New York teams, the Yankees wanting to pair him atop their rotation with Garrett Cole, the Mets, Steve Cohen going over to Japan to personally meet with Yamamoto and pitch him on the idea of signing in Queens. And so it has felt like, with the Dodgers getting Ohtani and all these teams, these big market teams in the mix for Yamamoto, that the Giants might not be really in this race. But the news that Buster Olney dropped earlier on Monday that they did have a meeting with Yamamoto, I think that's a very good sign. And again, the Giants are the kings of having meetings with teams in free agency, with players in free agency. They love to have meetings with big-time stars. Now, we know the long history of not landing stars. It now includes Shohei Ohtani twice. You've got John Lester, Bryce Harper, Giancarlo Stanton when he was being traded from the Marlins. You've got Ohtani twice. You've got, Aaron Judge. You've got Carlos Correa, where they did get the deal done, and then the medicals fell through. Talked about this plenty in the past. I'll continue to talk about it plenty more in the future. But the bottom line is this. The Giants have got to deliver a superstar to San Francisco. They've got to deliver multiple superstars if they want any hope of playing in the same realm as the Los Angeles Dodgers. Because I think they probably knew. I think it was Jack Harris of the LA Times who may have first reported this earlier on Monday evening, that when Ohtani was meeting with teams, he was discussing this salary structure, this unprecedented nature of his contract with just about every team. So he was willing to take less in the moment to give the team that he signed with more financial flexibility. And the Giants, presumably one of the teams he met with, one of the teams that he was in on or were in on him, had to know that this was a possibility. But it doesn't make the idea of the Dodgers having more payroll flexibility and the Dodgers being able to add to a team that already has three incredible superstars any easier to stomach for the San Francisco Giants. And so they are back to the drawing board. The pressure has been ratcheted up, and right now it feels like the Dodgers are playing in an entirely different world, even though it's two teams in the National League West, two longtime rivals who came over from New York to the West Coast together in 1958, two franchises who will be linked together through eternity. It feels right now like the Dodgers are so far ahead of the Giants that they're just playing a different sport. They're on a different level. And Giants fans have every right to be angry about that. Giants fans have every right to feel like the organization has not done enough to win in recent years, that they should have bid higher for Bryce Harper, that they should have done more last offseason when they had the opportunity with four big free agent shortstops. They went after Correa. The medicals didn't work out. And of course, we all know that they didn't land Aaron Judge, who was headed back to the New York Yankees pretty much as soon as they met the number that he wanted to get in free agency. And so all of this is to say, if the pressure wasn't already on high with Farhan Zaidi, this Giants ownership group, and every member of this front office, it has been ratcheted up even more right now with this Ohtani deal, with the new details leaking out, with knowing that the Dodgers can do even more this offseason, and will be able to do even more over the next decade, because there will come a point when Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman are no longer superstars, or no longer, really providing maximum value over the course of their contracts. And yet, when that happens, Ohtani will still be paid $2 million annually by the Los Angeles Dodgers, and they'll still have an opportunity to continue to develop their farm system. They'll still have an opportunity to go and add free agents. And so all of this is to say, it has been a nightmare week for the San Francisco Giants since learning that Shohei Ohtani would not be signing in San Francisco. I don't think it surprised anyone in the organization. I don't think anyone in the Giants front office or ownership group probably seriously thought that they were going to get Ohtani. But as this news comes out that he's going to the Dodgers, as this news comes out that the Dodgers have more payroll flexibility, it just makes the gap between the two franchises even larger right now. And we've seen at different times over the course of this rivalry, the Giants have been able to close it and close it fast. 2010, 2012, 2014, the Dodgers were trying to win, and the Giants won World Series in those years. You go back to 2021, the Dodgers thought that they were going to just waltz to their 9th or 10th consecutive National League West title. The Giants won 107 games, but it is going to take a lot of magic this offseason. It is going to take massive financial commitments in getting the best players on the market to even consider signing in San Francisco, and it is going to take creativity on the trade market. This probably isn't, if we're being realistic, a one-year job. This probably isn't a situation where the Giants are able to narrow the gap in 2024 because Ohtani's a Dodger, and presumably they'll continue to add this offseason. But what it is a warning sign to the Giants that if they don't work to close the gap soon, and if they don't make significant progress in closing that gap in 2024, fans who already feel disengaged, fans who already don't find this team compelling, are going to continue to look elsewhere. It is a crowded marketplace. Baseball is not the only thing competing for fans' attention. If the Giants struggle to stay relevant in a world where the Dodgers are world beaters, it's going to be really, really difficult to ever make up ground. And so the impetus is on the front office. The impetus is on ownership group to make splashes soon, and make up as much of that gap as it possibly can right now. Because you never know what happens when the playoffs come around. No one thought the Arizona Diamondbacks would dispatch the Dodgers in the postseason. They did. No one thought that the Dodgers would win all these division titles and only win a World Series in 2020. But that's what's happened. The playoffs are chaos in baseball. The Giants' objective, goal, top priority should be getting back to them and doing something in them. And to do that, they have to sign big talent, they have to trade for big talent, and they have to make sure the floor of their roster, the ceiling of their roster, are much higher than they've been for the past 2 seasons. Welcome. Thanks for watching another edition of the Kerry Crowley Show. We'll be back on Tuesday. Got to sit down with Roger Munter, and I also have a look at Yoshinobu Yamamoto in the works and what the Giants should do to try and entice the Japanese ace to come to San Francisco, sign with this organization, and be potentially the best pitcher in baseball if he does, what they can do to set him up for success moving forward. So all that is to say, thank you so much for tuning in. Ohtani is a Dodger. The nightmare continues. This is the Kerry Crowley Show.